It's cold in here right now. We can't do it. I ain't sitting. And what's your reference? Oh, you're after me. Okay. Yes. 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 Thank you so much. Yes, my dear friend.
I will.
My son's
You can go out and get out.
your family's well and all. Yeah. Oh, my oh, no. Oh, family's wonderful, aren't they? Thank you.
You let me know when I want you to start because it's not quite 2 o'clock yet, according to my clock.
Thank you.
It's up to you. Yeah.
Everybody gets settled a little bit.
Thank you.
Your daughter.
Joey coming?
He said he was.
If everyone would like to be seated, we'll begin the service.
You coming, Joe?
I'm standing here, Natasha.
Please forgive me for overseeing on my glasses. I use glasses to read, but I don't use glasses to see you. So I'm going to look like a gargoyle in some cases, I'm sure. But I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Judy McCall. I'm a pastor. I'm entering my 14th year in my church. My home is across the road on the one-way street here in New Berlin, but my church is 37 and a half miles south of here. So I have the best hour's drive every Sunday because I get to spend it with God. So I welcome you here. I'm sorry it's under these circumstances. I have to say, I didn't personally know Tom, but I spent many an hour in his mother's room at Chase because I used to work there, and she and I were both crocheters, so we had lots in common. And I know that you probably all have had some crocheted item that Martha made for you, so enjoy. We are here today to honor the memory of Tom and to support one another in our grief over the loss of a father, a brother, community member, and friend. And although I didn't know him personally, I feel that now today I've gotten to know him much better. And at this point, we'll open the floor and have his daughters speak.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dad would be very appreciative of everyone spending their time with him today. So thank you all for making the trip from wherever you were to be here with us. I'm Kate. I'm Tom's older daughter and the infamous epic teenage brat. If anyone ever heard him complain about his teenage daughter, it was most likely me. To be fair, it was really true. I used to complain a lot about going places with my family when I was younger, saying that I wouldn't have any fun. And Dad would always say to me, Of course, you're not going to have any fun if you don't want to go. And it took me a very long time to fully understand what that meant and to realize that our attitude sets the tone for just about everything we do. And to his credit, more often than not, I really did have fun. Some of my best memories are spending time in the Adirondacks with my parents and with the Hart family, who's my mom's side of the family. Dad's favorite thing to do while we were in the woods was play pinochle. He was not exactly the rugged outdoorsman type. But for many years, he came to the lake with my mother's family and the kids, and he would play pinochle every chance he got. And I asked Mom this, I believe he's the one that introduced pinochle to that side of the family, and that has now become a longstanding mandatory tradition with our family that we must play pinochle anytime we get together. I almost brought cards today and I forgot. You did, see? There it is. We also took other family camping trips when we were younger. We had a 4-person pop-up trailer, and I can remember riding my bike around various campgrounds. Sometimes we would go by ourselves. Sometimes we would go with other church families and friends. And we have a lot of memories from that. Dad had this little electric camping stove that he would use to cook eggs and bacon and sometimes pancakes if we were feeling really fancy. Staples for the camping trips included cans of pineapple juice, an 8-pack of the little tiny individual boxes of cereal, and powdered Tang. Yes. Every time we went camping, we had at least those 3 things. I don't know what else we ate for lunch and dinner, but man, camp breakfasts were the best. And I believe that camping was the only time that Dad deviated from his typical breakfast of Cheerios or Wheaties with milk, toast, and orange juice. Dad was a creature of habit, no questions. He was a man of routine and organization, and everything had a place. He had these little organizer storage units with drawers in them that he kept on his computer workbench, on his computer desk and his basement workbench. And for many years, he loved his label maker. So every drawer in those units was meticulously labeled. If you needed a paperclip, rubber band, stamp, thumbtack, staples, anything like that, you would check the computer desk organizer. If you happen to need wood screws or various nails of any kind, wire caps or circuit parts, because why not? They were in the basement organizer. There was never any question where anything was, and whatever little part or thing we needed was most likely in a drawer that was labeled. Dad also taught us the value of having a good work ethic. He worked for IBM as a computer programmer for over 40 years. Many people whom today I've spoken with who worked with him. I don't remember him complaining very often about work. As he approached retirement age, he would say, "When I have 3 bad days in a row, then I'll retire." Well, he ended up retiring in 2009, but I don't know that he ever actually reached those 3 consecutive bad days. Dad enjoyed his job and he loved computers. Not to brag, but we had computers in the house before it was cool to have computers in the house. Neither Kim nor I remember a time when there was not a computer in our house. In the 80s, when all of my friends were playing Atari, Kim and I were playing a game called Colossal Cave Adventure, which was a text-based adventure game, which I did not find nearly as cool as the Atari. But we had our own PC to play games on, so we didn't have to bother Dad when he needed his, which was a little bit cool. And I can still remember parts of the tasks that we had to accomplish during that game and the images that were conjured up in my head as we played it. And of course, I now realize how important those strategy games are to the way that we think and solve problems and actually move through life. We have always credited our affinity for jigsaw puzzles to our mother's side of the family. However, there's definitely an aspect of problem solving that came from Dad as well. His job at IBM was to examine computer dumps or programming errors, figure out what went wrong, and then figure out how to fix it. And I always thought Dad had significant job security because there was probably only a handful of people who wanted to know or did know how to do his job. which was confirmed by conversations that I've had today. In high school, during family dinners, Dad would talk about a project that he was working on or just talk about work in general. And at that time, I don't really think that any of the rest of us really knew what he was talking about. But after earning a master's degree in my 40s, I can now appreciate the specialized knowledge that he had. In a very ironic, unforeseen, strange twist of fate, because of that degree, I now essentially work in computer IT, which was not on my lifetime bingo card. And I remember calling Dad, like excited about this degree. Dad, guess what? I get to take web design classes and I get to learn HTML. And to my surprise, he responded that he knew other programming languages, but he did not know HTML. And I still find it very strange to think that I know an aspect of computer programming that he did not. That was just unheard of. Dad was the realist of our family. And when I decided to return to school full time, as a 45-year-old, independent, fully grown adult, I made a list of very specific reasons why this was a good idea. Not that I expected Dad to shoot down my decision, but I could hear the questions that were going to be asked before he asked them. And I had my answers at the ready. I knew that he would thoroughly investigate every aspect of that decision and how it would impact my life at that time and in the future. And I think that I both simultaneously impressed and surprised him by how confidently and thoroughly I answered his questions. Fast forward to 2 years, when I gave my final thesis presentation, he was in the front row. And I remember him giving me a hug afterwards and telling me how proud he was. We were not an overly affectionate family when I was growing up. So hearing Dad say that he was proud of me felt like a really big accomplishment. At the same time, though, Dad always supported us. And even though he didn't say the words out loud very often, I always knew that he was proud of us. Kim and I were both involved in both music and theater throughout high school, and Dad drove us to rehearsals, sat through countless recitals, concerts, marching band shows, and theater performances. He also chaperoned trips for us. He was always there. He put us both through college, so neither of us had student loans to contend with, and he supported Kim when she transferred colleges. He moved me to Florida immediately after college graduation for my first real job, and then 2 years later, he moved me back to New York. Cards and gifts that we both made for him as kids were displayed on bookshelves or his desk, and recently, while cleaning out his apartment, Kim found a treasure trove of forgotten handmade cards and notes that we had both given to him that he had kept over the years. We never felt lack for anything. Dad always provided for us and rarely said no. There were two exceptions that I can think of. One was when I wanted an Atari, and the other was when I was in college and I had the audacity to ask my father, a lifelong IBM employee, if I could have a Mac computer. So I'm thankful that he didn't disown me as a teenager and he didn't disown me after I asked for a Mac. Aside from those two instances, I don't remember Dad outright saying no very often, if ever. However, we were not handed everything we wanted on a silver platter. No. That's not how Dad worked. He was the man of 20 questions. If we wanted something, we had to know exactly why. Hence my list of reasons at 45 years old to go back to school. We were forced to thoroughly consider purchases and big decisions, thinking through every angle and aspect. As a kid, that was incredibly annoying. As an adult and a parent, I get it. I don't tell my children no. I don't know that I ever really have. I ask questions and discuss things with them so they can understand the implications and the impact of their actions and choices. And it wasn't well until I was well into adulthood that I understood that that's exactly what Dad did with me. It's why I can reason and why I can think critically. It's why I ask questions. It's his fault. And why I want to know as much information as possible. Dad is the reason that I turn off all the lights in empty rooms of my house and double check that the front door is locked at night. He's the reason I know how to balance a checkbook and track my finances. The reason that I keep years worth of past bills and paperwork filed neatly in a drawer. He's the reason that I am determined to pay for as much of my children's education as I possibly can, because that's what he did for me. He's part of why I got good grades in school. Because of Dad, I'm punctual. And I think that being on time means showing up at least 5 minutes early. He's why I know how to drive a stick shift and read a map. He's the reason that I love Pinnacle, Spit, and other card games, as well as spreadsheets, checklists, and labels. I'm a lot more like my father than a younger version would have wanted to admit, but I'm very proud of him. I'm proud of everything that he accomplished, and I'm proud of the impact that he had on everyone around him. It's a Wonderful Life is my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies, and it's my tradition to watch it every Christmas Eve. And in case you're not familiar, the one-line summary of this movie is that a guardian angel named Clarence is sent from heaven to help the very desperate and frustrated George Bailey see the value of his own life. I was partway through when I got the call that Dad had passed, and I never finished watching it this year. While my father was not in the same desperate situation that George Bailey was, one quote from Clarence the Angel immediately came to mind and keeps coming back. Each man's life touches so many other lives. When he isn't around, he leaves an awful hole. So, Dad, thank you for everything that you've done for me and for Kim and for our families. Thank you for always being such an important part of our lives and influencing who I am. I'm very grateful for the time that I was able to spend with him, and glad that I had the sense to express my gratitude over the years. I'm thankful that we had the chance to see him before he left, and that I could say these things one more time. Thank you all for being here very much. I think he would be overwhelmed by this, honestly. I love you, Dad.
I'm Kim, the younger sister, younger daughter. Kate said a lot of things that I certainly agree with, and I would just like to add just a little bit. Growing up, when we lived on Gladys Street, every time Dad was sitting in his recliner and I passed by, he would pop his hand up every single time. And as I passed him, I would grab his hand. And it wasn't a high five, it wasn't a handshake, it was just a little squeeze. And I would squeeze his hand and go on my business. He did this every single time I passed by. Even as a teenager, when I internally or maybe externally rolled my eyes when his hand popped up, I don't recall ever denying him a squeeze as I went by. I got to see him in the hospital shortly before he passed. And he was coming out of a sedation fog. I wasn't really sure if he knew what was going on, who I was. So to let him know I was there, I took his hand and he squeezed. He knew it was me. And he told me just with that slight squeeze that he loved me. And that squeeze just put me at peace. It really did. For many years, we had a poster in our hallway of Robert Fulgram's All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. So with apologies to Mr. Fulgram, here is All I Really Need to Know I Learned from Dad. Providing for your family should be your main priority. Punctuality is important, as Kate said, unless you're on vacation at the lake. He was a man who would say, you'd say, what time is it, Dad? And he would say, 11:42, 1:37, always exact. One time someone asked him at the lake what time it was, and he said, Tuesday afternoon. It's helpful to flash your high beams at big trucks after they pass so they know to get back in your lane. He taught me that, and that was reiterated by my truck driver husband. Very useful. Dad could show you 3 different ways to solve a math problem, and none of them were the way you learned in school. There's only one right way, though, to coil a cord, and that's in a figure 8. Organization is important, and lists are super helpful and time-saving. He taught me how to leave a tip, always leave a 15% tip when the service is good, and he taught me how to calculate that tip. While cleaning out his house, after 40 years of continuous living in it, I decided it's not called hoarding. It's called being prepared. Like she said, you needed something, he had it, and he knew where it was. Be generous in giving to others, but don't let others take advantage of you. You either know how to Tetris luggage into the car or you don't. If you don't, just get out of the way. There's many ways of showing affection besides hugging and kissing. Acknowledging unconventional signs of affection is just as important as saying, I love you. And lastly, a lesson that I came uncomfortably close to learning the hard way. Gratitude is underrated. My mantra for 2026 will always be express your gratitude. Do it now before it's too late to say thank you. So thank you, Dad. Thank you for teaching us all of these lessons and so many, many more.
Bear with me because I'm not tech savvy. I want you girls to realize you are teaching all of us so much today. Thank you. I'll now read what was written for Tom's obituary. Thomas Norman DeForest passed away on December 24th, 2025 at the age of 79. He is survived by his daughters Kate DeForest and Kim Cusimano and sister Louise La Dolce. Tom was born November 12, 1946 to Martha Fleury and Douglas DeForest. He graduated from New Berlin High School in 1964 and went on to earn a bachelor's degree in mathematics from SUNY at Buffalo in 1968. After college, he worked at IBM as a computer programmer for over 4 decades. In 1970, Tom was drafted into the military and served until his honorable discharge in 1972. Tom was a member of the First Baptist Church of Endicott for many years. He was actively involved with local theater groups, particularly the Endicott Performing Arts Center, EPAC, where he provided sound services to support their productions. And I understand that was one of many of the things he provided music for. DJing was his passion and an activity that occupied much of his time. He maintained contact with his New Berlin roots through his support of the Unadilla Valley Railway Society and Museum, of which he was an active member, as well as serving on the board. He developed and authored articles for the Society's newsletter, The Pendragon. He was a repeat presenter at their meetings. Another of his interests was a collection of telephones, which prompted him to write about the local telephone history. And I understand that there was a shop on Main Street in New Berlin that had a wire that ran to a man's house, and that was the telephone in New Berlin, New York. And true to what you have said, your father documented and fully, I mean, when he explained something, there was nothing left to know. So I just wish that I could have known. At this time, I would welcome if anyone would like to share a brief anecdote, story, or something that you feel that would allow others to know him the way you did. And please don't be shy. Yes.
Hi, my name is Jerry Todd Miller.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Could you stand up here? Because I know we have people who are watching online. Would you mind?
Stand up here.
I'll stand with you if you want.
Okay.
I'll stand with you.
My name is Jerry Todd Miller. I'm a member of the infamous class of 64. Tom has been a glue for us. He always brought his music to entertain us. He created a book with all of the names, where they lived, who they married, and we shall miss him so much. I do have the book here if you'd like to look at it.
Oh, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for coming, and God bless Tom.
Thank you.
Yes?
I have a little stenosis from being a too active young person, so I'm paying for it now. Hi, my name is Mike Holdridge. Hi, Jerry. I didn't recognize you. I was close to it, but I wasn't right there till you said hello. I originally am from West Edmiston and graduated from Edmiston Central, but really enjoyed coming to our biggest problem in basketball to New Berlin and Edmiston. We were always like this. It was a good game to come to, but not always because of the game. I enjoyed always right after the game, all of a sudden you heard something slide up and you see this big line flying out into the middle of the gymnasium from up and back of you through the theater portal. And who was up in that theater portal? Tom DeForest. He was the school's original geek. He was into audio visual right up to here. And it wasn't because I know it, but I know him enough to know that he had gotten involved, and I asked enough questions, so he started to tell me the real stories about it. He had a blast doing that. And the school depended on him hand and fist, not just for making a few dimes at the dime dances, but that's what the line was for, to hook up the telephone so somebody could call up there and say, we know you've got this in your rapport, please play it. And it turned the place alive to be able to do that. And I was just a kid, but I enjoyed watching this and stuff. So I always knew who this lanky, tall guy was, no matter where I saw him, but I never said anything to him because he was knowledgeably way above me. The first time in years that I'd seen Tom after that, there he was at my family reunion. And that was over in Sherburne. And I didn't dare say a word to him. But I knew who he was. But I didn't dare say a word. And after a few months, I had gotten a letter from him. And he was asking if he could use a picture that I had of the Unadilla Valley Railroad in one of the newsletters. And he needed my okay. And I said, I got back to him. I skipped the letter part, got on the phone and called him. And that was the big thing that got us to be good, close friends. Mm-hmm. Now, I lived at that time deep into Pennsylvania, south of State College, Pennsylvania. And it took several hours to get up home to visit family when they were here and to get involved with what was going on with the railroad and knowing gratefully that things were and how the society was going along. It was a rough start, but it always had something, and we've got something now too. But Tom was very involved in this, and much more than I. But anytime we got together, we talked things out and had a good time with it. And in the beginning, I could make the trip. Later on in the years, it was, do you mind, Tom, if I stop? I'm about out of gas when I reached Binghamton. And I really could just fall. I know you've got some space, but I don't mean to say I need it. I just would be happy if you could provide it. And he did many, many times. And I'll concur exactly with breakfast. It was Cheerios, toast, and orange juice. And I always turned down the orange juice because it was too rough on my stomach. But it just was great. We talked about so much stuff and got into family things. He opened up to me, so I really know you kids. I didn't know when I came in, but I really do now, and some of the flip of this too. So it's been so worthy and yet so sad, you know. And he was, as you said, the greatest. He was the guy that was put together at 90 degrees plus or minus and zero, you know, because he was everything. The boxes, the whole routine. Oh, they're over there. Oh, no. That side of over there, right there. And it was a pleasure to know him. I feel honored to know him. Things that he changed or was able to tell me too. I said, how do you enjoy this work? He says, Mike, he says, look, it's taking something and breaking it down. It's a simple box. It's a simple yes and no, actually. And so I'd listen and understand it. But in 2 minutes, even though I could walk through with him with it and understand it, I couldn't tell you at all 50 minutes later what the heck was said. You know? Just the gentle flow of it. I just liked that I could slide along and still understand that was it. But it was some of the most complicated work that I've ever understood, and do know that very few people had the know-how. And Tom treated it, he says, I love this work. It's the best work I've ever had in my life. And he says, close the door behind you to some of the people. I'm here enjoying my work. So that's what I've known about Tom. I'm sorry, I'm rocking a little bit on this rug. That's what I know about Tom and have felt about him, and also what he's put into the railroad so much. He's left such a gap in our society. We're working pretty hard to keeping things square, but it just has been an honor. And I don't know how I could have not, from a few of the instances, just broken and got to know him sooner. But when we got together, it's just we had bunches to talk about through family and how he did. He adored you girls. And I knew you by pictures, but obviously when I came in today, I thought, well, I'm lost. I don't know yet. But to meet you and to hear your stories and to hear your understanding of who he was, it's you've got it. To have that, you've really made it too. I'm so proud of you both.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that, Mike. That was beautiful.
Okay, thank you too. Thanks.
Would anyone else care to share? Yes, Paul.
Okay. My name is Paul Stringy. I'm president of the Unadilla Valley Railway Society and Museum. And roughly 8 years ago, I had been a member of the society for quite a number of years, but I had never had much to do with it. They invited me to a board meeting and said, would you, maybe you can come. Oh, I don't know. Okay, I'll come. I'll see. Maybe I want to be a board member. I walked away from that meeting as president. What I very quickly learned was that Tom was the glue that held that whole thing together. Okay. There are times, and I said, if anybody wants to be president, I'm more than willing to step back. I will be there in the board, and somebody else can take this job if they want it. He never wanted it, never wanted that. But he held everything together. He was the structure. He was the glue that kept it all functioning. I'm a person, I'm kind of a little flighty. I am inspired by things. I'm a very creative person, but I'm not a structured person. Having him there so that we were a team, and he helped me to get everything together and focus. And so we were able to accomplish, for a very tiny organization, we were actually able to accomplish quite a bit. When Tom had to resign from the board a year ago because of his health concerns, honestly, I was completely lost, and I'm still struggling at this point because, like I said, he was the structure. He gave us focus and purpose. And I remember when I joined the organization, when I joined the board, I had a collection of photographs which I donated to the society. So I gave him copies because I hadn't digitized it, and I gave him copies. And 2 weeks later, he gave it back to me, completely structured, all labeled, organized. I'd given him just a jumble of photographs. It was just, hey, I've been collecting 800 photographs. I gave it to him. Like, okay. And then, like I said, when I got it back, it's all nice and neatly structured and organized and all the rest of that, which was incredibly helpful. So that when I wanted to do an article, I just went to his little guide and went like, oh, okay. Yeah. But again, he is very missed. We are struggling trying to figure out. I am struggling trying to figure out how to, keep things going. Yeah. So I know he was very proud of his family. He had expressed regret over some of his choices and the things that he did. In particular, he expressed regret over becoming so involved in the sound aspect of things, because he said that it kind of caused problems in his family. He had a lot of regret about that, but he was very proud of his family and always spoke very highly of you all. You should be very proud.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Sir.
Well, I've only known Tom for about 55 years. I'm Steve Folk. My wife Joanna's back there. And I really feel like our family and your family grew up together. When we both attended Endicott First Baptist Church, I think almost every Sunday afternoon, daughters would go one to the other house and spend time. But I did spend a lot of time with Tom, and I can back up everything they said because I learned how to coil cables. I sat at his workbench in the basement, and we soldered things. He showed me how he figured out dumps from the IBM computer. They were on the wide spocketed paper. He would trace it back and show me how he found the answer. In more recent years, not last year, unfortunately, but he and I would have lunch together at least once a month, and he would always bring me a copy of the Pendragon. And I never visited their facility, but I learned a lot about it from that. We had a lot of common interest. I was curious, so that's why I put up with looking through 150 pages to see what he was talking about. But he taught me an awful lot about sound, and I'm still doing sound. I sing with the barbershop, the Southern Tier Barbershop Chorus, and I do sound for them. I do sound for Enville Community Chorus, and it's largely because of Tom, because I mostly learned from him. Also trains. I'm a model train enthusiast, and I have a whole room in my basement with trains. We had a lot of interests in common, and could tell you about a lot of occasions where he helped me and I helped him, and got to know his daughters, and we have two daughters, and they spent a lot of time together. We did sound at church. We did other things at church. So a lot of intersection there. And I'm very proud to say that Tom was my friend and he helped me a lot, and I think I helped him a lot. We worked together a lot, but things didn't always go well, however. And in our family, because both families were there at the time at my house, our house, it was Christmas time, and they were over, and Tom had left his Suburban idling in our driveway. And they were about to go home, drive home. We live up a hill in Vestal, up from Coles in Vestal. And he went out, and because I don't know whether he took something out, but I'm about to leave. And he came back and he said, "My car's gone." Well, what had happened is he had let it idling, but not parked, not with the parking brake. And our driveway goes downhill a little bit to the road. It went across the road and over a culvert, and was really snagged there. So, but Tom was very much into problem solving mode. I was there too. I know the next day we had to leave. It was the middle of the night. Although one person drove by and knocked on my door at about 2 a.m. to remind or to tell us that there was a car across the street from our house. But anyway, so the next day he made arrangements for a tow truck to come, and we were concerned about getting the car over the culvert. So, and I had removed a long, like a 16-foot of 4 by 10 a beam from my house. And so Tom and I carried that out to basically be a bridge over the culvert. And unfortunately, someone dropped their end of the board, and I think both of us ended up slightly injured at that time. But he was very, I mean, he had a plan, and I was there most of the time. I was more assistant than in charge, but we really worked together. We had so many interests in common. I'm still interested in computers, although not at the level he was involved, but so many things. So, and I know he treasured his daughters, and we treasured the time that we had together with those two families. Just too many stories to tell, but I will always remember him fondly. Always owe a lot to him, and I thank everyone here. I know about connections to IBM, connections to the Railroad Society. He had an interesting life. He was very organized, as was said, but it was an honor to know Tom and spend so much time of his valuable time together. So. We're very happy to be here and remember him.
Thank you for
Thank you,
sharing.
Steve.
Is there anyone else? If not, I'll offer a closing. Tom's memory will live on in the hearts of those who knew and loved him. As we leave here today, we can be grateful for having known him and the ways in which he touched our lives. He will be remembered and missed. Thank you all for coming. This concludes the service for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Let's go with the tie of telling grandma to
Well, and as much as I was not a computer person, my father so I had a different experience, but I had much the same. It's just a privilege to
I would like to remind myself.